With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service.
What up, though? How we doing? How are we? Enough out of here. How are we doing? Oh. All right. So, real quick overview of a few different news items. Dedicada. Come with me if you want to live. So there's some kind of big deal news items. Again, we're just going to review them real quick and then, stick them in the Discord. Let's see. First thing, the China may be significantly farther along in quantum computing than the United States is. They have indicated that they have a computer which is 180 million times faster on AI-related tasks. Team says the device. Hold on one second. I forgot. There we go. Team says the device could be applied to data mining, biological information, network analysis, and chemical modeling research. Forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. Zhujiang computer took less than a second for a task that the fastest classical supercomputer in the world would take nearly 5 years to solve. Let's see. Okay, in the experiment, the team used Zhujiang to solve a problem that is challenging for classical computers. It used more than 200,000 samples to solve the problem. The researchers, for the first time, used a quantum computer to implement and accelerate two algorithms, random search and simulated annealing, that are commonly used in the field of AI. The fastest classical computer in the world would take 700 seconds for each sample, meaning it would take nearly 5 years to process the same number of samples, and it took Zhujiang less than a second. That's wild. That is absolutely wild. Previous claims of quantum advantage were challenged by suggestions that the quantum computer was not competing against the best possible classical algorithm for the task. Whether the team's quantum processor will still yield an advantage over classical algorithms optimized for solving graph problems is an open question. And then it goes and it breaks down a little bit about quantum computing. So that's wild, right? One of the things that quantum computing is going to open up speed, right? Like a significantly additional speed. I'm not going to get too into quantum computing because it is it's a nuanced subject. It's deep. It's not my expertise. I recommend, if you want to know, go ask Computer. They've actually done lectures and know significantly more about quantum computing than I do. DeepMind's AlphaDev. AlphaDev is part of the whole AlphaFold, AlphaGo, interrelated products. Discover sorting algorithms that can revolutionize computing foundations, right? It's a specialized version of AlphaZero. Asserts that the newly discovered algorithm achieves a 70% increase in efficiency. Also, impressive. Additional efficiency equates to additional speed, equates to accomplishing more goals faster. This is what I keep talking about with the double exponential growth of technology. The one thread of technology feeds back to the other thread of technology, which feeds back to the other thread of technology, so on and so forth. This is a bit science-y, but it's just impressive, right? We estimate that our open source sorting algorithms yielding speed improvements from 2% to 70% are called trillions of times per day worldwide. These algorithms can provide resource savings to developers and companies that call these functions in their systems and applications. We believe that these algorithms will inspire researchers and practitioners to develop new approaches that lead to more discoveries of new and improved algorithms. This right here is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, they invent an algorithm, or they create an algorithm that leads to additional speed. Those algorithms provide a resource savings, and then new developers can use those to create new approaches. And this is why the interactions between the different fields of technology generation are TLDR. They didn't improve quantum computing. They improved a side process. I mean, still, right? Like, serious business. What up, Easel Cat? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, by the way, what up, Sarah? What up, Old Lobster? Always a pleasure. I forgot to do the thing. That's something I learned from Telorx. Telorx is a serious, he's one of the homies, and like just acknowledging people when they come into the space. Because if not for you guys, I'd be just sitting here talking to no one about, this kind of stuff. And it's important to acknowledge, chatters when they come in. I understand that you shouldn't acknowledge lurkers, but to the lurkers, I see you, right? Like I see your names. So it's there. And to the streamers that I know watch my content, because I see you pick up on certain mannerisms and turn of phrase, then yeah, I see you too. And I appreciate you all. Yeah, don't wear pants. Reject pants. Embrace the new. Reject pants, embrace the new. So this is a little thing. It's 10 years of AI in review, right? Again, we're not going to go deep into the article. I just wanted to give you an overview before we put it into the Discord. Back in 2012, we had AlexNet. What up, Devil? Comrade Devil. Computer vision switches to neural nets. Then we had GANs, residual nets. AlphaGo in 2016. You got the transformer architecture. We have the transformer architecture in 2017. GPT-1, BERT, and graph neural networks in 2018. GPT-2 and improved generative models in 2019. GPT-3 and self-supervised learning in 2020. In 2021, we had AlphaFold 2, DALL-E, and GitHub Copilot. In 2022, we had ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion. Then 2023, generative AI. So that's like over 10, 11 years. This is the growth that we have seen. Technology growth is not linear. It is a double exponential, right? I'm going to keep harping on this until until people get it. There's another sciencey article, but MIT News, the news.mit.edu. If you want to know about, the cutting edge science going on in AI, I highly recommend MIT. That's where a lot of action is happening outside of the companies. MIT researchers make language models scalable self-learners. Right? We talked about this previously, about the idea of the various forms of AI teaching themselves. The scientists used a natural language-based logical inference. Say hi to chat, Ferris. Say hi to Ferris, chat. Based logical inference data set to create smaller language models that outperformed much larger counterparts. a smaller model is going to use less resources. It's going to be less costly to train. And in deployment, it's going to be able to be used on platforms with lower resources, right? Smaller things. Like eventually, very, very, relatively soon, right? I can't give you a date and time, but relatively soon, you will have fairly advanced AI on your personal device that you walk around with. Expect it. Like, when I have it set up so when I turn on my computer, my cell phone connects to the computer, and I can use that, to quickly swap information back and forth. Anything, if I find stuff over the course of the day, I use Google Keep as a cloud device in order to save information over the course of the day. The integration between the multiple platforms that you might use in the day, combine that with AI, and you are going to, yes, Ferris, yes, I love you too. You are going to, see tremendous advantages to what you personally are trying to accomplish. Socrates once said, "It's not the size of a thing, but the quality that truly matters. For it is in the nature of substance, not its volume, that true value is found." Skipping ahead, to that end, the researchers cooked up an approach to long-standing problems of inefficiency and privacy associated with big text-based AI models. A logic-aware model that outperforms 500 times bigger counterparts on some language understanding tasks without human-generated annotations, while preserving privacy and robustness with high performance. And this was one of the major concerns that was brought up is, the privacy of the data. Yes, dear. Yes, I love you. Privacy is a big concern in the in the data used to train the models. And of course, privacy is one of the big things that people are concerned about in terms of their data. And as always, robustness is one of your, if your thing breaks, it's not useful, right? If it only can run within a very specific set of parameters, it is limited utility. So if you can protect people's privacy and make your model robust, you're going to have high utility, which is going to, allow you, again, under the current capitalist form, it presents you with the opportunity for market capture and getting your stuff out there. But again, like the stuff that they have done, people will use this to make other stuff, and that is what's happening at a consistently faster rate. Something called textual entailment, a way to help these models understand a variety of language tasks, where if one sentence, the premise, is true, then the other sentence, the hypothesis, is likely to be true as well. For example, if the premise is all cats have tails, then the hypothesis, a tabby cat has a tail, would be entailed by the premise. This concept is used to train an entailment model that proved to be less biased than other language models from the team's previous research. They then created prompts that the model can use to figure out if certain information is entailed by a given sentence or phrase according to different tasks. This method improved the model's ability to adapt to different tasks without any additional training, known as zero-shot adaptation. Right? This is what's happening. Like, Ferris is anything but neglected. Trust me. And now she just fucked off. So, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Because she's a cat. So, yeah, that will be in the Discord if you want to read the entire article. And then finally, WordPress launches a generative AI assistant to enhance content writing. So the assistant employs generative AI technology similar to OpenAI's ChatGPT. However, it does not provide specific information regarding the AI architecture. Operating similarly to its counterparts, Jetpack utilizes user prompts to generate content. Additionally, the AI assistant can tailor and refine text to match specific tones and styles, enabling writers to adapt their writing to resonate with their target audience. Okay? And we'll put that in the Discord as well. Because I know that I am not in any way at this point in time saying that the creativity is somehow going to be forwarded over to the robots. Okay? I'm not saying that. That is not what I am indicating. What I am indicating is that a fair amount of writing is just connecting a series of words in order to impart an idea. The human should, at this point in time, be creating the ideas, and then the AI can do the heavy lifting of creating all these words that are necessary to impart these ideas. Not gonna lie, if I was still in school, I'd tell it to write it for me and then just reread it and put it in my own words. My son had to write a poem for his English class. He had ChatGPT write a poem. It's not a great poem, but it is a poem. Like, it's not fucking Whitman, but it's a poem. And he is also the only one who actually turned in a poem in his class. So you tell me which is worse, right? He understands it's a poem. He's not a poet. He doesn't poet. Like, maybe one day I can hit him off with some Dead Poet Society, and he will become enamored with the written word and all that. In the meantime, he just had to pass his English class. Exactly. Right? Okay, calling it, right? We all you may or may not be aware there's a movie either from the 90s or the early 2000s. I think it's the 90s, called Roxanne. Okay, starring Steve Martin. Roxanne is a modern reimagining of Cyrano de Bergerac. Cyrano de Bergerac is a French story where the dude Cyrano is he's got a big nose, right? He's not classically attractive, but he is very eloquent and he knows how to turn a phrase. And then he falls in love with Roxanne. Roxanne falls in love with this really, buff looking, classically attractive dude who befriends Cyrano to help the dude write poetry to, to enamor Roxanne. Roxanne falls in love with the words that are written, but also knows that the guy doesn't speak that way when they're together. And then hijinks ensue and so on and so forth. I don't want to spoil it for you. You should go out and watch it yourself. Any of them. Cyrano or Roxanne. And this trope has been used in a whole bunch of different places. I would put money on it that there will be a movie within the next year and a half in which Cyrano, is an AI and like a chatbot or something, and it'll be like a young person in a new town who falls in love and then uses the chatbot to write the thing. Could absolutely be. New season of Black Mirror comes out like this month or next month. And also, what up, Bipedal Meatbag? Like, so if it happens on Black Mirror, remember that I said it, and like that. I'll know because I love Black Mirror too. Like even the first episode with the pig fucking threw me really hard, and it took me a minute to get back to it. But then after that, it was like, yeah, no, there's a lot of good shit in here. If a tad depressing and unfortunately real. I'm interested to see where they go this season. But keep an eye out for AI Cyrano de Bergerac coming soon to a platform near you. All right. Okay, so that's everything there. I know I'm confident we got a few people in, enough that I feel like I can get started with the reason that a lot of you are here. And that's with the title and the go live notification about AGI within 18 months. Okay? So we are going to just go ahead and get into that as a reward for everyone who showed up. And this is there's a video from David Shapiro. What up, Valvo? And it's titled AGI within 18 months. This is actually from 2 months ago, so we're talking 16 months. Explained with a boatload of papers and projects. So we're going to give David a chance to, defend his thesis. We're going to get into this. We're going to see what we think. I have a fair amount of confidence in a lot of what David talks about. He seems knowledgeable, and committed, and so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I have not watched this, so no pre-watch, Andy. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, David Shapiro here with an update. Sorry it's been a while. I am doing much better. Thank you for asking, and thanks for all the kind words. So a couple days ago, I posted a video where I said, we're going to have AGI within 18 months, and that caused a stir in some corners of the internet. But I wanted to share, why I believe that, because maybe not everyone has seen the same information that I have. So first, Morgan Stanley research on NVIDIA. This was really big on Reddit, and basically why we are writing this. We have seen several reports that, in our view, incorrectly characterize the direct opportunity for NVIDIA, in particular the revenue from ChatGPT inference. We think that GPT-5 is currently being trained on 25,000 GPUs, or $225 million or so of NVIDIA hardware, and the inference costs are likely much lower than some of the numbers we have seen. Further reducing inference costs will be critical in resolving the cost of search debate from cloud titans. So basically, if ChatGPT becomes much, much cheaper, then it's actually going to be cheaper than search. Is kind of how I'm interpreting that. Now, this paper goes on to say that like the industry is pivoting. So rather than seeing this as a trendy new fad or a shiny new toy, they're saying, no, this actually has serious business implications, which people like I have been saying for years. But, you know, the industry is catching up, especially when you see like how much revenue Google lost just with the introduction of ChatGPT.
And as an aside to this, but related, we all know about crypto, right? Like what crypto, you know, people taking these massive GPU farms and running them to do the crypto thing. And so a lot of companies sold a lot of these different, you know, graphics processors, so on and so forth. The thing about that is that even though like Nvidia, for instance, was selling these and these people were buying them up, Nvidia did not pivot to a crypto GPU model, right? Not even in part. These were their regular GPUs that you could buy to do this stuff with, to do like graphics stuff with, and then you could also use them for crypto mining. There are quotes. We covered one from Nvidia where they said, you know, basically that, like, we are not, you know, we're going to sell you the shit, but we're not like advocating it or anything else like that. Now, yes, if you sell them the thing, then aren't you kind of tacitly, you know, signing off on what they do? So there is that. I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but Nvidia has pivoted, and we went over their you know, the release video the other day, where they are heavily investing in this AI, okay, which is like, I see a lot of, you know, people referring to just AI. It's just a sales pitch. You know, Adam Conover is doing it. There are people on the Twitters who are doing it, and that it's like, it's all fucking fairy dust, right? It's not. TLDR, trust me, bro, like, but go look. I have left you a trail. What up, Reading Rap? I have left you a trail of breadcrumbs going all the way back to episode 1, and now we're on episode 67, right? It's fucking happening. Now, are there people who are marketing stuff as AI, but that is like, you know, whatever? Yes, right? But that is the case no matter what. You know, they're like, I don't know if y'all remember, but there was a company that was selling a Bluetooth speaker that was like, it was huge, right? It was like a fucking rugby ball. The thing was massive. And then I got this one for $35. It basically looked like this, right? And these little things go with the base. So it looked like this, except like the gold stuff was real gold and like that. It's a good speaker. I've got nothing negative to say about this speaker, but like, and I knew something was up when I ordered a $35 speaker for something that's like $3,500, right? Like, I knew what was happening, but I wanted to see, and I had the $35, and I could have used a new speaker, and I got it. And again, I have been happy with this purchase, but It was it was definitely smaller than I thought like might come through. But again, it's fine. Like, I don't need this massive fucking speaker to do the thing. So, healthy skepticism and media literacy. Like, have an idea when people are selling you stuff, just look into it. And if you need some assistance, I am available to you. Like, I'm more than happy. I had somebody contact me last night, and we talked about like some automation stuff and some IT stuff, and some business plan stuff, and like I'm available to any member of my community who wants to have a chat and work some stuff out. Sometimes it just helps to have someone to talk to, and I'm more than happy to be that guy. We just might have to schedule it around the rest of my life, but I'm available to you, and we'll figure it out. I never leave anybody out on a raft. I'm here to help. So, that notwithstanding, here we go. Back to the thing.
I like this. And we're not trying to be curmudgeons on the opportunity. So anyways, Morgan Stanley, NVIDIA, and I've been in NVIDIA's corner for a while saying that, like, I think they're the underdog. They're the unsung hero here. So anyways, you look at the investment, and so this reminds me of the ramp up for solar. So 10 to 15 years ago, all the debates were like, oh, solar's not efficient, solar isn't helpful, it's too expensive, blah, blah, blah. And then once you see the business investment going up, that's when you know you're at the inflection point. So AI is no longer just a bunch of us, writing papers and tinkering. When you see the millions, and in this case, $250 million being invested, that's when you know that things are changing. And so this reminds me of like the 2013 to 2015 range, maybe actually even like 2017 range for solar, where it's like, actually, no, it makes financial sense. But of course, everything with AI is exponentially faster. So NVIDIA is participating. They've got the hardware. They're building out the big computers, so on and so forth. The investment is there, so the improvement is coming. The exponential ramp up is coming. Now, that's great. One tool, let's take a quick break. And when I talked about N8N, Nathan, I'm not sure how people pronounce it, as well as LangChain, people were quick to point out LangFlow, which is a graphical interface for LangChain. So this fills in a really big gap for LangChain, which is, okay, how do you see it? How are things cross-linked? So I wanted to share this tool. It's github.com/logspace-ai/LangFlow. So you can just look up LangFlow and you'll find it. So this is a good chaining tool, nice graphical interface. This is exactly the direction that things are going. Great. Okay, so we've got the business investment. We've got people creating open source libraries. It's going, it's advancing. So I wanted to share this paper with you. MMReact for, multimodal reasoning and action. So this basically makes use of the latest GPT, where you've got vision and chat, and it's like it's exactly what you kind of expect. But this page does a good job of giving you a bunch of different examples, and they're I think they're pre-recorded. Is it playing? It looks okay. There it goes. So you can check out this paper. The full paper is here, and there's a live demo up on Hugging Face. So you can try different stuff and then talk about it. Which is great. Like, the fact that they're able to share this for free, just as a demonstration, is just a hint as to what's coming. Because imagine when this is...
Again, this was from 2 months ago. Some of this stuff, like, we have covered how it is, like, beyond some of the things that he is showing here. The Matt Wolf video is showing how the picture and language interaction is currently functioning, and then picture and video and all that good stuff. And I'm seeing, y'all know Daily Dose of Internet, right? Hi, and this is your Daily Dose of Internet. That guy. He's covering the AI stuff, right? Remember we talked about the fMRI thing, where they could like use it to like visualize. You would watch a video and then it would visualize what your brain is seeing, kind of thing, and interpret that. Okay, he covered that in his latest video. And then also here I showed you the robot that was doing the eyelash installation. He covered that in his latest video. So like, make sure you hit the follow button to stay notified, because your boy is weeks ahead of the popular. So if you're waiting for it to come out on the news or the whatevers, be here. So when people say, "Did you see?" You say, "Of course I saw. Globus showed me."
Is commoditized. You can do it on your phone, right? Your phone's hardware will be powerful enough to run some of these models within a few years. Certainly, if it's offloaded to the cloud, it's powerful enough to do it now. And then, when you stitch together the rapidly decreasing cost of inference, these things are basically going to be free to use pretty soon. When you look at the fact that an open source framework like Langflow and so on can allow pretty much anyone to create cognitive workflows and all these things, it's like, okay, yeah, like we're going to have really powerful machines soon. And so someone asked for clarification when I said, okay, well, what do you mean when you say AGI within 18 months? Because nobody can agree on the definition. And if you watched the Sam Altman, Lex Friedman interview, Sam Altman refers to AGI several times, but the definition seems to change. Because early in the interview, he talks about like, oh, you put someone in front of GPT-4 or Chat GPT-4, and what's the first thing that they do when, and these are his words, when they interact with an AGI, is they try and break it or tease it or whatever. And then later he says, oh, well, GPT-5, that's not even going to be AGI. So he keeps like equivocating and bouncing back and forth. I think that part of what's going on here is there's no good definition. And because later in the conversation, they were talking about things that a chat model can't do. It's not autonomous, right?
What up, Jana? Welcome.
But I'm glad you asked. Reflection came out. An autonomous agent with dynamic memory and self-reflection. So between cognitive workflows and autonomy and the investment coming up into these models, we are far closer to fully autonomous agents than I think many people recognize. So the reflection stuff.
Real quick before we go any further, like one of the previous items that he mentioned, the Langflow, that's available on GitHub. If you're not familiar with GitHub, it's GitHub. There's a lot of open source material available on GitHub. I am not going to tell you learn how to code, right? I understand we're all busy people. We don't have time necessarily, but like we have a small collection of some videos if you want to learn like Python. And again, for the people who came in after, my man Kaiputer, Kaiputer loves to teach people, has a whole community of people who do programming, stuff like that. It's a great community, very helpful, very has a lot of education, and the homie himself is very based, and can teach you a lot about GitHub and these kind of things. Even if you don't want to learn how to code, it can be helpful to understand how these things work, so that you have a better idea and you can speak from a better place when these situations come up, or somebody's like, I want to learn how to do this. Is like, okay, well, you need to learn some stuff. Kaiputer is a great place, to kind of send those people so that they can learn. Like, part of what we got going on here is like a loose connection of educational type content rather than the shenanigans that you get elsewhere on Twitch. And I want that to continue to grow. So I'm always going to shout out people who are doing that kind of thing and who I personally would recommend.
I'm not going to do a full video on reflection. There's other ones out there, but basically this outperforms humans in a few tasks, and it forms a very, very basic kind of cognitive architecture loop. So query, action, environment, reward, reflect, and then repeat. So you just continuously iterate on something.
And see this right here, heuristics. We talked about heuristics on Wednesday, right? This is why, it's like this stuff. Everything builds on everything
in a loop, and there you go. And also for people who keep asking me what I think about what's his name, Ben Goertzel. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but I read his seminal paper a couple years ago on general theory on general intelligence, and he never mentioned iteration or loops, at least not to the degree that you need to when you're talking about actual intelligence. So I personally don't think that he's done anything particularly relevant today. I'm not going to comment on his older work because obviously he's made a name for himself, so on and so forth. But I don't think that Ben has done anything really pertinent to cognitive architecture, which is the direction that things are going. But yeah, so when MIT is doing research on cognitive architecture and autonomous designs, when Morgan Stanley and NVIDIA are working on investing literally hundreds of millions of dollars to drive down inference cost, and when open source libraries are creating the rudiments of cognitive architectures, we are ramping up fast. And so someone asked what I meant, again, kind of getting back to that. What did I mean by AGI within 18 months? I said in 18 months, any possible definition of AGI that you have will be satisfied. So it's I don't care what your definition of AGI is, unless there's still some people out there that you ask them and it's oh, well, once AGI hits, the skies will darken and nuclear weapons will rain down. And I'm that's not AGI, that's Ultron. That's different. That's a fantasy. That's probably not going to happen. It could. If Skynet's going to happen, it will happen within 18 months. But I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, so that's section 1 of the video, talking about the news and everything out there. So now let me pivot and talk about the work that I've been doing. So I've been making extensive use of ChatGPT-4 to accelerate my own research. I've been working on a few things. Many of you are going to be familiar with my work on the heuristic imperatives, which is how do you create a fully autonomous machine that is safe and stable, ideally for all of eternity. So this is probably one of my most important pieces of work, and I've put it into all of my books and a lot of other stuff. The TLDR of heuristic imperatives is...
Yo! What up, Raiders? What up, what up, what up, what up? Just smoke the weed, kids. Thank you, James. Thank you for the sub. Again, 5 months. I appreciate you so goddamn much. What up, Kohai? What up, Joint Specialist? What up, Quiet One? What up, Jenny Burns, leader of the Lost Tribe? Goku, Adric. What up, homies? How is everybody doing? Sorry that my alert didn't function. What up, Kinky McMuffins? Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is my OBS, my RAID alert wasn't working properly, and then it started exporting its sound to the to the speakers, and now it's doing the other thing. Whatever. Anyways, hi, I'm Globus the Elder. This is Ferris. Say hi to the chat, Ferris. And we talk about AI. We talk about automation. We talk about robots. We talk about how the future is shaping up. I have a whole collection of highlights and VODs. This is episode 67 talking about AI. And then we have a Discord where I collect every video, every link, everything that you can think of. Regarding what up, YBE? How you doing? Anything related to this, anything I've covered, it goes into the Discord. So make sure you join that Discord, !Discord. And, my community is great. Everyone here wants to learn and, to be on top of it and like that. I know it's complicated and weird and you don't know what's what. This is the place to go to find out. No one is going to. I don't like to build myself up too much, but I'm here for you. That's what I could say. I'm here for you, and people will speak on my behalf. Anyways, we are watching a video from David Shapiro. David Shapiro works in the AI field, and when we say AI in here, we might be referring to machine learning. We might be referring to deep learning. We might be referring to actual artificial intelligence. For the purposes of the stream, we just use AI. There are differences, but I don't think there's something that we really need to get into. Specifically for the purposes of just talking about it and moving through the way that everything is changing. So, make sure you hit that follow button if that sounds interesting to you and you'd like to know more. I go live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and like that. So we'll get back to it. Where we got a bunch to get to today.
It's similar to Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics, but it is much, much more broadly generalized, and it is also not androcentric or anthropocentric. And so basically the 3 rules...
Hey, thank you for the sub with the Prime. Those are the serious subs. Thank you, Ethernaut. I appreciate you. Now you have access to my emotes, which some people really like, and I am one of those people.
Rules that if you embed them into your autonomous AI systems, reduce suffering in the universe, increase prosperity in the universe, and increase understanding in the universe. This creates a very thoughtful machine, and it serves as a really good reinforcement learning mechanism, self-evaluation mechanism that results in a very thoughtful machine. So that information is all available out here on my GitHub, Dave Shap /Heuristic Imperatives. I've got it published as a Word doc and a PDF. So I started adopting a more scientific approach because, there's a reason that the scientific paper format works. So if you want to come out here and read it, it's out there. It's totally free, of course. Actually, that reminds me. I need to put a way to cite my work because you can cite GitHub repos. But basically, this provides quite a bit. And one thing to point out is that this paper was almost written entirely word for word by ChatGPT-4.
Okay. What did I say earlier about using these tools to, to assist you with what you're doing, to do the heavy lifting? A lot of information contained within books, papers, articles. A lot of it is just putting one word after another in order to do a thing. Like, heuristic imperatives are designed to provide AI systems with intrinsic motivations and a moral compass similar to the way humans are driven by innate needs such as hunger, sleep, and psychological needs like belonging and confidence. Okay? The value of the human in this relationship right now is to provide the creativity, to provide the idea, to provide the motivation for these things to produce the content that they are going to produce. And the value of the models like ChatGPT is going to be to provide speed. Right, it is going to do the heavy lifting for you while you are thinking about things and being creative. You let the machine do the work of putting it all together in a way that sounds good. Now, there's still some flaws. You still need to read over this stuff. You can't just say good, done, because sometimes it makes mistakes. It is young. and we need to help teach it. Now, Globus, if you ever need an article tracked down or are having a tough time with it, I could try and help. Find scholarly articles and file them for my day job. Happy to help people actually doing something worthwhile. I appreciate you, Janie. I will reach out to you when that need comes up, as I'm certain that it will.
Meaning that all of the reasoning that it does was performed by ChatGPT-4, and at the very end, I actually had it reflect on its own performance. It looks like it's not going to load that much. More pages. Oh, there we go.
So it's still assistive automation just for cognitive tasks with a noticeable misfire rate. I would be comfortable with that characterization at this point in time. Now, the thing to do is not to get complacent. AI is going to continue to improve. Things will change over time. But here, now, and today, I would be comfortable with that. Like, you still have to check its work, but even that process of just reading over the thing that it is written before you submit it to wherever you have to submit it is going to save you a bunch of time and allow you to accomplish more goals. If you work in a job that you can use AI in any way, you will be better than everyone else that you work with at doing things if you can make use of the AI. And going forward, the people who are going to remain at their jobs the longest are the people who are comfortable and competent with using AI, especially if you work in any of the knowledge-based systems, anything like that where like you have to draw on a knowledge base in order to, basically you're taking information that already exists, synthesizing it and presenting it to someone else. Any of that type of work, you are going to benefit from knowing how to use these tools because you will be that person, right? You will be the AI guy, gal, or NB within your office, what have you, who can do this stuff, and you will last the longest. And those are the people that I want to last the longest. Like somebody's, the way that capitalism fucking works, somebody's going to get cut, and I don't want it to be you, because the people who understand how to use the AI, who, participate in the AI, make the AI have a better data set going forward. And, if you're like me and you have certain ideas that are classified as leftist, I want your ideas part of the database as the AI learns. One thing that we absolutely do not wish to do is to concede the ground of artificial intelligence to right-wingers and capitalists. It is very important that we don't do that because that is the coming landscape. We need our ideas involved. Thank you, Kohai, for the subscription with Primes. I'm getting Primes. I feel like, and I'm not joking. Like those are like the the sweet, like that good strawberry. Fun part of working in IP law, I might get to work with a patent for the line of code that replaces that. But you can be the last person on deck if you learn to use the AI. That's the best thing I can hope for you. You theoretically you might even outlast some of the lawyers. It's a need to know if I want to get a job outside of academia. 100%. Prime two read and rap 2
examples. So, anyways, when you read this and you keep in mind that the nuance of it, that the nuance of this was within the capacity of ChatGPT-4, you will see that these models are already capable of very, very nuanced, empathetic, and moral reasoning. And this is one thing that a lot of people complain about. They're like, oh, well, it doesn't truly understand anything. I always say that humans don't truly understand anything, so that's a frivolous argument. But that leads to another area of research, which I'll get into in a minute. But basically, keep in mind how nuanced this paper is, and keep in mind that ChatGPT wrote pretty much the entire thing. And I've also got the transcript of the conversation at the end. So if you want to read the whole transcript, please feel free to read the whole transcript, and you can see where like we worked through the whole paper. Yeah, so that's it. So on the topic of does the machine truly understand anything? That resulted in this transcript, which I have yet to format this into a full scientific paper. But basically, the TLDR here is that I call it the epistemic pragmatic orthogonality.
Yeah, JJ is right. We need to figure out what happens for jobs so that we can keep the lights on while we're resisting capitalism. Exactly. And like as presented on a previous episode, we talked about cyber socialism, right? And not as like some, magical thought of something that, like we could potentially whatever. I was drawing on the 1970, I'm going to go with 3. I think it was 1973 Chilean CyberSyn project, which was using algorithms in 1973 to move resources around. It was a very effective process, even that it was like undeveloped, because at the same time that they were deploying this, they were going into the early portions that would eventually lead to the coup and everything terrible that happened. But it worked. It was working, right? This is something concrete. I don't do imaginary shit. I work from like you got to present me with data. You got to present me with an example. You got to show me. I don't like, I don't get into all the weird crap. Like, this is what we're talking about. All this stuff is demonstrable. The idea that we could reform the economy, the way that Amazon and Walmart run their business, if you remove the profit motive, you end up with a scenario where you're doing resource distribution based on algorithm. This is happening right now. The capitalism has become a bottleneck for resource distribution. It has become a problem. It is slowing the process, and therefore it needs to be removed if for no other reason, right? Combine that with the fact that as AGI gets more and more in charge of what is happening within the world, our influence on its decisions on the best way in order to do what it does, like, I keep going back to this. I had a conversation with ChatGPT. I asked it for its top 10 human values. And in that list of top 10 human values, I didn't find anything wrong. It was all good. And then I asked what type of government and economic system or political and economic system that properly represents those human values, and they were all left-leaning, like SocDem and DemSoc and that kind of stuff. But it's going in the right direction, right? These are fundamental data points that I can point to. I can present you. They actually exist. These are actual, really real things, and we just have to do our part to see that we're all midwives of artificial intelligence. I'm going to quit in the next few months. Going to do wood metalworking and content creation. Wood and metalworking is good. There is some 3D printing stuff and some automatic lathing stuff that could potentially threaten that. But I think that in the realm of creation of physical objects, there's still going to be a high market for human created items going forward. Still going to try and stay into the evolution of AI, but law demands too much of my soul. Fair enough. Yeah, no. Like, if you can't do the job, get out. 100%.
Which is that the epistemic truth of whether or not a machine truly understands anything is orthogonal or uncorrelated with how useful it is or objectively correct it is, right? So if you look, basically, it doesn't matter if the machine truly understands anything, because again, that's not really germane to its function as a machine. And so this is, it's a fancy term, but it basically says, okay, and there was actually a great Reddit post where it's like, can we stop arguing over whether or not it's sentient or conscious or understands anything? That doesn't matter. What matters is its physical, objective, measurable impact, and whether it is objectively or measurably correct or useful.
What up, little Donnie Fun? 3D printing is great for woodworking. You can make custom fitting so much easier. And I saw a really cool 3D printer using metal, right? Like we are well beyond the 3D printing of just plastics and PLA. We are 3D printing with metal. We are 3D printing with clay. We are 3D printing with concrete. Like, there is, and again, like, you want a solution to the housing crisis of making more housing, you can literally 3D print a house now, right? Like, this is a viable technology that can be used. Again, I understand there's always the issues of who gets what in the resource distribution, but that is why we have to appeal to the AI. The AI is actually disruptive enough to take on capitalism, right? Because when you start talking about human values, right, and it's required for alignment of artificial general intelligence to deal in human values, capitalism, a corporation, functions as a misaligned AI, a paperclip optimizer. The thing in and of itself doesn't function under the thing that you're trying to accomplish. Capitalism is going to remove itself from the equation by creating artificial intelligence. I know that sounds like a big grandiose statement from some dude on the internet, but like, again, I have 67 episodes. I have built up to this. I didn't start saying this out of the blue. I've constructed a rational scaffolding to how we get there.
So I call that the epistemic pragmatic orthogonality principle of artificial intelligence. I've got it summarized here, so you can just read. This is the executive summary that I actually use ChatGPT to write. So again, a lot of the work that I'm doing is anchored by ChatGPT, and the fact that ChatGPT was able to have a very nuanced conversation about its own understanding kind of tells you how smart these machines are. Yep, so that is that paper. Now moving on back to some of the cognitive architecture stuff. One thing that I'm working on is called ReMo. So the Rolling Episodic Memory Organizer. For autonomous AI systems. I initially called this HMCS, which is Hierarchical Memory Consolidation System. But that's a mouthful, and it doesn't abide by the...
And ensuring that post-capitalism is why we need to be AI midwives for anyone that heard that statement but missed the context. Exactly. Like, I appreciate you. Like, we're on the same page. You understand where I'm coming from, and that's important. Like... And there are more of us than might, like, I know, I'm certain that tech is filled with a lot of goofies, right? Like, just unfortunate souls. But there seems to be more and more of us who are, like, you know, in either in the tech field or interested in these things, are able to analyze these things, and more people in these various fields who are like not like that. And the very nature of the systems that have been built up over time under that, you know, that model, the capitalist model, we can use those to work with each other and like that. I normally make it into a joke about we need Digimon to avert Skynet, but it's the same thought on the hood. 100%. Like, same page.
the current trend where you use an acronym that's easy to say, right? So REMO, Rolling Episodic Memory Organizer, much easier to say, much easier to remember. Basically, what this does is it's also not done, so I need to add a caveat there. I'm working through it here with ChatGPT-4, where we're working on defining the problem, writing the code, so on and so forth. But basically what this does is, rather than just using semantic search, because a lot of folks have realized that, yes, semantic search is really great because it allows you to search based on semantic similarity rather than just keywords. Super powerful, super fast. Using stuff like Pinecone, still not good enough because it is not organized in the same way that a human memory is. So REMO, the entire point of REMO is to do two things. The two primary goals is to maintain salience and coherence. So salient memories means that what you're looking at is actually germane, actually relevant to the conversation that you're having, which can be more difficult if you just use semantic search. The other thing is coherence, which is keeping the context of those memories basically in a coherent narrative. So if rather than just focusing on semantic search, the two terms that I'm introducing are salience and coherence. And of course, this is rooted in temporal binding. So human memories are temporal and associative. So those four concepts, salience and coherence, are achieved with temporal and associative or semantic consolidation. And so what I mean by temporal consolidation is you take clusters of memories that are temporally bounded or temporally nearby, and you summarize those. So that gives you temporal consolidation, which allows you to take you can compress memories, AI memories, on a factor of 5 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1, depending on how concisely you summarize them. So that gives you a lot of consolidation. Then you use semantic modeling to create a semantic web or a cluster from the semantic embeddings of those summaries. So it's a layered process. Actually,
And if I understand that some of these things can be like daunting in their presentation, that some of the stuff might not make sense. You might be able to pick it up over time by like listening to it in context, but do not hesitate. Anyone in chat, do not hesitate to ask any questions that you have. If the knowledgeable people in chat want to answer, or I will answer for you, more than happy. If you don't want to stand up and chat and say, I don't understand this, I am available in Discord, I am available on Twitter, and I am available in, like, you can whisper me if you have a question and you want to, you want to know something and you don't feel that it was gone over. Like, this is primarily an educational chat, and you can reach out to me and I will get back to you. I don't leave people hanging. What up, Nabil? Nabil, yeah.
Here,
I'm having a wonderful day.
Here. Wait, no, I've got the paper here. Let me show you the REMO paper. This is a work in progress. It'll be published soon.
What up, Change
but let me show you the diagrams, because this will just make it make much more sense. Oh, and ChatGPT can make diagrams too. You just ask it to output a mermaid diagram definition, and it'll do it. So here's the TLDR, the very simple version of the REMO framework. It's got 3 layers. So there's the raw logs layer, which is just the chat logs back and forth.
What up, Professor Q? According to this, 18 months. Like, my man did the first half of this video presenting that we will have a fairly robust AGI within 18 months. Ray Kurzweil said by 2029. Different other people have extended that out. But, like, I'm comfortable with the 2029 number. But I can't say I would be like surprised if we hit that 18-month number. Like, because every day it's new. Every day, there's new and interesting things happening, and those things feed into other things, and then new people are like, yeah, your thing is great, but it's expensive and it's huge and it can't run on anything, so I made my own thing. There's a lot of competition in the open source and that kind of area. Like there's a lot of people who want to make stuff happen and are building on things that have come before, and the technology just keeps getting more and more impressive every day. So somewhere between, I would be comfortable saying somewhere between 18 months and 6 years.
The temporal.
The more energy we put into it could be sooner and sooner. I agree. The Turing test was a good start. The Turing test has its issues and also benefits. I think it's a decent mark and a decent thing to use, but I think part of the issue that comes with these variety of tests of consciousness is that ideally you should understand what it is that you are creating a test for, and I don't think that we have a good handle as human beings on what consciousness is. I think we barely have a good working definition of what intelligence is, and it will vary depending on discipline and person, you know what I mean? Yeah, like anybody else, like I'm currently listening to The Singularity is Near, and there's like some stuff which I'm like, and then some stuff like, okay, yeah, because Singularity was Near was written years ago, so I get to use that as a lens, right, to compare where we are now with his predictions. And some are dead on and some are a little off, but that is predicting the future is hard. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Consolidation layer, which, as I just mentioned, allows you to compress memories based on temporal grouping. And then finally, the semantic consolidation layer, which allows you to create and extract topics based on semantic similarity.
You know how the SAT is sometimes racist by default for relying on the cultural context of the test writers, so Turing tests are like that, but on steroids. Yeah, like, I mean, that is definitely an issue. And this is why, like, I'm a huge advocate of, cross-disciplinary relationships as we develop this AI. The idea of sectioning off artificial intelligence or just like, computer science people or coders or anything else like that, I think is a huge misstep. There is like, when I go through this information and when I talk about it and I share and I find the new video and like that, I look for comparisons because I am not in any of these fields. So I can like, okay, so that's similar to this thing, and I see that, and this over here, and these should be interrelated to each other. And that needs to be the approach. Like, it can be surprising how much like of a philosophy education can serve you when talking about artificial intelligence. Like, let's say your background is in ethics, right? Like the ethics of something that might be having a subjective experience really comes into play when we're talking about an artificial intelligence. Is like, do we have the right to shut something off if it has a subjective experience? And these are questions that should be asked now as opposed to waiting until something demonstrates that it's having a subjective experience. Sociology, I think has a definite potential excuse me, for a a feedback loop relationship in data analysis and composition from artificial intelligence, but also in addressing, how data sets are formed and like what goes into the training model for the AI as it goes forward. Like AI is for the umpteenth millionth time, AI serves as a mirror of humanity, and it brings into sharp focus the things that we need to address as human beings in order to create the thing that we're trying to create, right? And we can't avoid it because the technology is continuing to go forward. It will continue to go forward because of all the factors behind it that want it to exist. So we need to make sure that when it is created, when we act as the midwives of AI, that we are doing the things correctly. It will be very challenging to convince the artificial intelligence that humanity deserves preservation when humanity has a habit of killing other humans. Right? Like that's an easy, logical, ethical argument. I assume you've seen the videos from the Center of Human Technology. Some of them, again, like I can't tell you how much stuff exists. Holy crap. And this is just the new stuff being created every day, not the back catalog of stuff that's relevant. Like, oh my God. And every single video is like 2-3 hours long. And it's like, I need like shorter content just give me the broad strokes. Holy cat. Yeah, but like if you see something, and again, the best place in the Discord, you should be in the Discord. Because if you see something and you think Globus should know about this, you you put it into the Discord and like go ahead and you tag me in it and I will absolutely take a look at it. Like I have content going on my phone all the time.
So by having these two layers that have different kinds of
the C-SPAN talk. What went on in the C-SPAN talk? I'm going to say yes because that sounds familiar. But what went on in it? I was overwhelmed. The conversation we covered the version from Matt Wolf. Matt Wolf gave y'all the short version, and I watched his edited version in order to get the broad strokes of that. I thought that it was a much better experience than what they did to the poor TikTok guy. Like that TikTok dude was not prepared. But they're thanks to the TikTok guy for taking that bullet, because now people know how Congress is going to behave, and almost no member of Congress has even a slight handle on what we're talking about here.
Consolidation, you end up with what I call temporally invariant recall. So the topics that we extract are going to include all the time from beginning to end that is relevant, while also having benefited from temporal consolidation. I'm going to come up with some better diagrams to demonstrate this, but basically it's like, actually I can't think of a good way to describe it. But anyway, so this paper is coming, and I'm actively experimenting with this on a newer version of Raven that uses a lot more implied cognition. So I talked about implied cognition in a previous episode, but basically implied cognition is in using ChatGPT-4, I realized that it is able to think through stuff without you having to design a more sophisticated cognitive architecture. So the cognitive architecture with GPT-4 as the cognitive engine actually becomes much simpler, and you only have to focus, I don't want to say only, but the focus shifts then to memory, because once you have the correct memories, the model becomes much more intelligent. So that's up here under Remo Framework. I'm working on a conversation with Raven to demonstrate this, and that's that. The paper will be coming too. So this is one big important piece of work. The other most important piece of work that I'm working on is the Atom.
And pause, Champ Andy, but like one of the things, like my man David has like a whole bunch of papers, right? You know that there are many papers just regarding AI. There are many papers about any of these scientific fields that exist. And I really am looking forward to somebody is going to get it together and create what I've been asking for the new people. What I've been asking for is where you have some form of large language model that is trained on a specific discipline, right? Like with my conversation with Corey. Corey works in biophysics, right? Like, so he is dealing with biochemistry. Biochemistry, there are so many papers on biochemistry. If you could have an LLM model that was trained on all of the biochemistry papers that have been put out, that are coming out every day, so that he can stay on top of them, right? Where he can just query it directly and it can look through all these different papers and provide that information, right? Like, rather than, it is impossible for a human being to do all the things required of a human being in America in 2023 and stay up on all these papers. But if it was just fed into this particular model, like Biochem GPT, then he could talk to it directly using natural language and get back the information that he might not otherwise be aware of. I talked about this with Greg, with biology, related to the like the algae, Mr. Algae Christ. Like, having all that information within a, something that you can communicate with. You're proposing that to communicate. I am proposing that the large language models do what they are already doing, right? And to an extent, like, I don't want to say at any level, right? Like, that wouldn't be a first step. No, it's cool because it's a valid train of thought. Because, again, like I said before, I don't want a teacher bot to replace a teacher. What I want is for human teachers to have AI assistants that work with their students, because of the nature of the amount of time that you have to spend in order to teach something. A teacher is fundamentally not going to be able to have necessarily the time and patience that an individual student needs. And this is no knock on any teacher. This is just physics. But if you had a teacher's assistant, an AI model that was a teacher's assistant per each student, then that AI assistant could be as patient as that student needs to get them, to the thing that they need to understand. And the computer would be, or the student would be able to communicate with the program on their level, by the use of the language that they're using. It would give it back to them on that same kind of level, and they could query it in different ways until they really wrap their head around it. I think this would be a valuable resource, and I think it will only improve on that once you have its ability to speak using any of the voice generators, and its ability to understand spoken language using any of the the speaking programs that we have out. This is how my brain already worked. ChangeBox. This has just been a great outlet for it. Not gonna lie, I'd expect radically different results from a multilingual LLM instead of an English-only LLM, and I've got specific things I'd want to see the difference over in astrophysics. I mean, I don't disagree, but I think that those are all like engineering issues, and they can totally be overcome, and they would be overcome, through the process of creation and fine tuning.
Framework, which this paper is already done, but Atom framework. Here, let me just load it here. There we go. So autonomous task orchestration manager. So this is
Yes, LLM is large language model.
Another kind of long-term memory for autonomous AI systems.
And that the current face of large language model is like is ChatGPT. Bard is also the Google platform is built on that its own large language model, different from ChatGPT, but similar.
That's basically like the TLDR is, it's like Jira or Trello, but for machines with an API. And so in this case, it's inspired by a lot of things. One, Agile. Two, On Task by David Bader. Neuroscience for Dummies. Jira.
Bard is what happens when you have a kid who might be a good football player one day, but needs a lot more training and practice. But the Buffalo Bills are down a wide receiver due to injury, so you got to put him out there right away. Right? He had a bad first game, and it again, like, this is, I think, a direct critique of capitalism. Is a direct critique of capitalism is the fact that Google had to release their model before it was ready because of the requirements placed on them by existing within the market and market share and everything else. It's like you cannot just say, well, we're not going to release Bard in spite of the fact that OpenAI released ChatGPT because Bard isn't ready. That you're going to run into an issue with shareholders in that way. So they release Bard and it fucks up, and then they lose $100 billion in market cap or what have you. And it's like you can't win for losing in that kind of scenario. And it's a problem with, resource distribution on that level.
Trello, a whole bunch of other stuff. But basically, we talk about cognitive control. So I'm introducing a lot of neuroscience terms to the AI community. So cognitive control has to do with task selection.
See? Neuroscience terms to the AI community. Like, these are the people that I look for, is because they understand the cross-disciplinary nature of of AI, both in its construction and in its training.
Selection, task switching, task decomposition, goal tracking, goal states, those sorts of things. And then we talk about some of the inspiration, Agile, Jira, Trello. And then, so it's like, okay, so what are the things that we need to talk, or that we need to include in order for an AI system to be fully autonomous and track tasks over time? So you need tools and tool definitions, you need resource management, and you need an agent model. All these are described later on, or in greater depth. Then actually in my conversation with ChatGPT, one of the things that it said is like, okay, well, how do you prioritize stuff? And I was like, I'm glad you asked. And so I shared my work with the heuristic imperatives, and ChatGPT agreed, like, oh yeah, this is a really great framework for prioritizing tasks and measuring success. Okay, great, let's use that. I think, let's see, is the transcript posted? I don't know if I posted the transcript. I didn't. I'll post the full transcript of making the Atom framework in the repo. So then we get into like, okay, so now that you have all the background, what do we talk about? So it's all about tasks and the data that goes into the task. So first you need to figure out how to represent a task. So there's basic stuff like task ID, description, type, goal state, priority, dependencies, resource, time estimates, task status, assigned agents, progress. And then the one that is new is task impetus. So this is something that you might not think of if you think about, your Jira board.
Yo, I'll get to you in 1 second, Read and Rap. What up, Raiders? What up, Lucian? How we doing? Welcome, Talerx Raiders. Welcome, Boy Meets Mini. What's happening? How we doing? Let me do the thing. I'll make myself big time. Talerx. What's happening, homie? How was your stream? I hope it was great. If you don't know me, I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI. I talk about automation, robots, all this newfangled stuff, and I take these. We are getting AGI. I apologize that my alerts are janky. OBS has been janky as hell lately. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'll see if I can get it figured out so that next week's streams aren't janky as hell. Anyways, a lot of this stuff is kind of scary, kind of intimidating, kind of weird, kind of wild. You don't know who to trust. I want to earn your trust. I want to be the guy who can, help you with that so that you can, maximize the use of these tools as they're being created and, true AGI or true AI would be AGI. Yeah, you have to be able to use your healthy skepticism and your media literacy in order to understand, to pick the wheat from the chaff and figure out what is in fact actually happening. We use a variety of different sources, and we look at and we are skeptical of anything, and people have to prove what they are saying. They're not just say that such and such a thing is in fact the case. David Shapiro says that we're getting an AGI within 18 months, and presented a bunch of evidence that could be used to for that to be the case. Ray Kurzweil says by 2029, and various people say other numbers, right? Right now, I am confident in between 18 months and 2029. This is just how I see things coming together at this point in time. So if all that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that follow button. I go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes I do bonus streams when there's extra time or something interesting happens. We also have a Discord. If you have any questions, I am available to you. Don't hesitate to ask questions in chat. This is fundamentally an educational stream, and I want you to feel confident and to feel knowledgeable going forward.
Your Kanban board or Trello board is the why. So the why is implicit in our tasks. Why am I trying to do this? But when we added this, ChatGPT got really excited, and it's like, oh yeah, it's actually really important to record why any autonomous entity is doing a task for a number of reasons. One, to track priorities, or the impetus might be superseded later on. Any number of things, but also you need to justify the use of those resources in that time. So this all goes into the representation of a task, which you can do in JSON, YAML, flat files, vector databases, whatever. I don't care. Like, you can figure out how you want to represent it. I'm probably just going to do these in text files, honestly, because that's the easiest thing for an LLM to read. And then, so talking about the task representation, then we move on to the task lifecycle. Task creation, decomposition, prioritization, execution, monitoring and updating, and then finally completing the task. And then you archive it and you save it for later so that you can refer back to it. Again, this is still primarily a long-term memory system for autonomous AI systems. Some of the folks that I work with on Discord, and by work with I mean just like I'm in the AI communities with them. They all think that
I mean, that's an open-ended question. Is AI going to replace coders tomorrow? No. The next evolution that you are going to see, as with all of these other knowledge-based systems, is that the AI tools will do a lot of heavy lifting. They will create a lot of the stuff that is required in order to fill in the vast majority of whatever it is you're creating, whether it's a book, whether it's a paper, whether it's a chunk of code in order to do a thing. It will do that. Your job as a human will be to be creative, to provide it with the motivation to create something by making requests, and then to make sure that whatever it's outputting does what you want it to do and is as eloquent and elegant as possible. In the long term, absolutely 100%, the AI will eventually learn to code. Exactly. And you should be attempting to use any of these AI tools to be, the best at whatever it is that you're doing, right? Like, because the first people who are going to be replaced are the people who don't want to use AI in whatever business you are in. That is the nature of what's going to happen. And then the people who are really good with AI will be the people who are there at the job the longest. So for your own self-interest, you need to be good, with these tools. To whatever it is that you do, you can find a way. Take Starbucks as a sort of example. When the company started, the barista had to grind the beans, pack the grinds to make each espresso shot. Now it's a button press to do those things. You still need a barista to steam milk, hit that button and put it together. This is an example of assisted automation, gold fucking star. I wonder how I can use it for assembly and management. What I would start, without getting too deep into the specifics of what you do, you can always, again, you can reach out to me on like Discord or Twitter to talk about these things. I don't necessarily have to understand what it is that you do to provide you with maybe some some clarity and direction, but what you can do is bust out ChatGPT and talk to ChatGPT about what it is that you do and see what it has to say. At the very least, right? Like, even if you don't accept that ChatGPT is some, like, it's some level of intelligence or anything else like that, it is always useful to have a conversation, right? As opposed to just thinking thoughts in your head. The act of having a conversation can be helpful in figuring out these things. So right there is where I would start. And again, one of my favorite members of my community, Old Lobster, is a tech manager, saves 20 hours a week using ChatGPT, and has used it for a variety of different things. So again, like, hit that exclamation point Discord, join the Discord. We are here for each other.
The Atom framework is pretty cool. So then we talk about task corpus management, which is like, okay, looking at an individual task is fine, but how do you look at your entire body of tasks? Because an autonomous AI, it might have 5 tasks, it might have 5,000 tasks, and then you need some processes to like, okay, if we're going through these tasks, how do we manage a huge volume of tasks?
Right there, like, I get tagged on into email threads that have been years long, paste the whole thing, catch me up on the email thread with the important points. Just these models are very good at taking a whole bunch of information and changing the way it's being presented to give you, like, you know, the TLDR, right? Exactly that. Functionally, that is what they have been built to do by their very nature. I could do a whole nother thing on how you construct these LLMs, but basically what you end up with is you feed a bunch of data into it, and certain words follow after other words more often than other words follow after certain words, right? And what you end up with is like a 3D cloud of words, and they're clumped together and like that. So it uses this in the contextual nature of what is being talked about to predict the next following word. That is why it can create this information that synthesizes all this data into into something that's consumable, right? It is not just predicting what word comes after the next, because the use of the word just belies the way that, like, humans process language, the way that our memory works, and everything else. It does that, but it is important to understand what that means, right? That when I communicate with you right now, as I speak, you are predicting the next word that is about to come out of my mouth. This is why the idea of horror and humor can be used to subvert expectations and come as like a shock to people, right? You follow me here? Humans also predict the next word that is going to come in a sentence. Don't use robots, parts are assembled by hand. I feel like that is an entire thing in and of itself. But feel free, like, talk and chat amongst yourselves and assist each other. But this is not, like, I cannot really get into that within the context of my stream at this point in time, if you follow me.
And so some ideas about how to do that are here. And then finally, one of the last sections is some implementation guidelines, which is just, okay, this is probably some things that you want to think about when you deploy your implementation of the Atom framework. So I think that's about it. I'm always working on a few different things, but the Atom framework and the Remo framework are the two biggest things that I'm working on in terms of autonomous AI. And so yeah, all this stuff is coming fast. I think that's about it. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and support me on Patreon if you'd like. For anyone who does jump in on Patreon.
So I completely understand. What I would recommend is just like jumping in and having a conversation. Like ask ChatGPT questions. And then while talking to it, you might be able to refine what kind of questions you should be asking. I have found that longer conversations with ChatGPT tend to go better because you're building up a framework of what it is that you're talking about, which improves its ability to correlate like the next word that it should be using from the context of the conversation that you're having. And then like there is a maximum amount of time before it, hallucinates and that kind of stuff. But generally people don't run into that unless you push it to the fringes. Let's hear from my man Hank
Good morning,
Green.
John. So it's starting to seem a little bit like this.
This is from 2 months ago. But shout out Hank Green and your battle with cancer, and I hope it all goes good. I appreciate Hank Green a lot. Like his brother John and his Crash Course World History I thought was excellent, and I used it myself to help teach world history to my son. Highly recommended series. Hank is generally a good dude. Hank is totally a good dude. I have yet to see anything Hank be sketch about.
Good morning, John. So it's starting to seem a little bit like this fun little AI thing that we're doing is going to be about 30 to 40 different giant AI things over the next 3 months to 5 years. And I'm not really ready for that. So to try and get ready, here's one thing that I've been thinking about. Fact number 1. Mongooses are native to India, and they're weaselly little carnivores that chew up anything that's like small enough for them to get their teeth into. Fact number 2. When Europeans arrived and then began to colonize Hawaii, they brought with them rats. And those rats were a problem for a bunch of reasons, but specific to this story, they were a problem for the European colonizers' sugar plantations. And so somebody got the bright idea into their heads to bring mongooses to Hawaii so that they would eat the rats, because mongooses eat rats. And the mongooses did not do a particularly good job of controlling the rat population, but they did a great job of eating a lot of native species that had never seen a mammalian carnivore before. An introduced species that is able to take root and change the ecology of an area, that's an invasive species. And if you introduce another species to try and control that invasive species, that's called biological control. And there are tons of stories of biological control going very wrong. Fact number 3. Meta's large language model artificial intelligence thing called Llama was leaked, which means that there is almost definitely a teenager somewhere in Orlando, Florida, who has downloaded it and is running it on their home machine and teaching it to behave however that teen wants it to behave. And I'm only focusing on that teenager in Orlando right now because I would have been that teenager in Orlando if this had happened when I was a teenager. Ecosystems are incredibly complicated, and it is very difficult to know what effect a change will have on the rest of the ecosystem. And the only thing that I can think of that might be more complicated than an ecosystem is a human society. Now, this is a bit of a leap, and I don't love taking leaps, but it might be that a good way to imagine part of what's about to happen is that we're about to live in a society with a bunch of invasive species in it. There are no native mammals in Hawaii, except for one very cute bat. And so far in human history, there have been no counterfeit humans that can't do all of the things that humans can do, but everything they do looks human to us, who can have goals and work in the world in ways that we can't predict to achieve those goals. What does a society look like when it has those entities roving around in it, and when those entities are controlled by everyone from that teenager in Orlando to Vladimir Putin? I don't know. But I think that we can take some lessons from the world of ecology. Like, there are some ecosystems that are more fragile. Ecosystems that are more isolated and have less diversity are at greater risk. And there are some demographics and groups in our societies that maybe have fewer immunities built up to deal with rapid change. That is a thing to be aware of. This isn't going to affect everybody equally. And also, here's the thing. Now, we have gotten a lot better at things like biological control. We look very carefully for really specific controls on really specific target species. And in the last 30 or 40 years, there's actually been lots of biological control programs that you haven't heard about because they've been successful. We made a whole side show about this. You should watch it. It's good. And there are lots of people in artificial intelligence right now working very hard to say, okay, let's not be that random guy in Hawaii who ruined everything for everyone. Let's think a little bit. Let's try and understand what the implications of this are. This can be done in better ways and in worse ways, but right now it feels like a lot of people are just thinking, hey, this is inevitable, it might as well be me. So fact number 4, in ecology and everything else, the only thing we definitely know is that things are going to change. But those changes don't come linearly. There are periods where there is less change and periods of rapid change. And it's starting to feel kind of obvious that both for society and ecology, the next couple of decades are going to be kind of the fast times. So if nothing else, get ready for that. John, I'll see you on Tuesday.
It is. I think that, like in my experience, right, of 50 some odd year, or well, 50, almost 51 years on this planet, is the more like flexible you can be, the better it's about adaptation, right? And flexibility is adaptation. So if you can be flexible, you can get you can adapt to the new situations as they come up. And AI is absolutely a new situation. And it is not overstated to say that AI is the most world-changing event that has ever occurred for humanity. Coming from, like, being born in the 70s, we had leaded gasoline and, and computers were like almost negligible. Like you were big time if you had computers, And then in the 80s we started to get home computers. And then in the 90s we got the internet. And I was there with my AOL discs accessing the internet and with the dial-up modem, and like people cannot use the phone and you have to disable call waiting, otherwise what did I say? Hi, joint specialist, what up? Yeah, no, like it was great because you would just like find these discs and then have 50 more hours on the internet for free. It was amazing. It was a very interesting time. And you would wait like an excessive amount of time for like a picture to down. Like, I am not joking. It went like line by line, putting this picture on your screen. Like, holy cats, y'all would have lost your minds, you youngins. Some of you older folks, you might remember. Yeah, and then we went into the 2000s with the different downloading softwares and your Napster and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually we got the torrents, which were able to speed that along faster because it was drawing from multiple sources and everything else. And it was crazy, right? Like, it was mind-blowing. I can get music off the internet. I'm going to play an MMO? What is an MMO, right? Like I'm going to play D&D, but like real? What's going on? And yeah, Netscape was a thing. I used to work for a company called Juno, right? And what Juno was is you would pay to have an email address. I worked tech support for Juno. Well, it was customer service, and then I got to tech support. And like I have the story of the lady who she couldn't get it to connect. She couldn't connect to her Juno, and like we went through a bunch of things, and it was like, okay, let's take it from step one, right? Let's go back to the beginning. Is your computer plugged into your phone jack, right? Because we used to have phones in the house. that were not connected to the internet. And oh, it has to be plugged in, ma'am. I think we figured out what your problem was, right? Like it was that kind of thing. And trust me, I love doing tech support for people in the early days of the internet. It was something special because most of them were like, people really wanted to use this email thing, right? And it was kind of wonderful. And then and it's only grown from then, right? Like your phone could send text messages and that was it, and it was doing the button pushy thing. And now we have the magic computer phones, and the internet is fast, and I am literally using a camera and talking to people on the internet just like the magic people who used to live in my TV did. So like, and this has happened within my lifetime. Before I was born, none of this I was here when this was all trees, right? But when you start to look at like where we've gone from, 2000 to 2023, or like when we just looked earlier, if you were here at the beginning of, the history of AI from AlexNet in 2012 to generative AI in the here and now. It's like things are going to move faster, and we can adapt to this. We have to help each other. We have to work together, and we can learn from each other, and that's an advantage that we have because of our, if you're still here at this point, our modes of political thought within our heads. We are, by our nature, we desire to work in a community. This is our advantage. This is how we win. Tech support, even today, you sometimes have to question every assumption. It's challenging and sometimes fun. Yeah, like I can only imagine. A friend of mine worked for the cable company doing tech support for businesses and would tell me stories. Part of me is like, all this shit is accelerating capitalism, but also we can use this for for way better things outside capitalism. This is totally true. Like, capitalism is so big. We did a thing, and again, I don't like the term Moloch. It has a whole bunch of baggage, but there's a bunch of people who talk about AI and like that, and they use the term Moloch. And what Moloch is, for the uninitiated, is basically, it's a series of complex interrelated systems that exist and restrict the behaviors of things that operate within those systems, right? There's no particular like person doing a particular thing. The modes of behavior are dictated by the environment. It's like an ecosystem as such, right? And like, in order to disrupt that system, you would be looking at like, either you do incremental change over time, which is going to take a long ass time. In the best case scenario, we're not going to argue about electoralism or anything else. I'm just talking about scenarios, okay? Value it however you want. We're just talking about scenarios. Slow changes over time. It is, but it's also been dredged up to represent this vast system of, capitalism, but also nation states, and also all the things, right? Like, and how they're interrelated and how they work and how they impact the things that operate within them. Unfortunately, it's also been used by groups like QAnon to be like this weird friggin' thing that exists, that is, they're sacrificing babies to, and weird crap like that. So like, again, the model is wrong, but it's useful, right? And giving it a name allows us to have a common understanding of what it is that we're talking about. And unfortunately, the people in charge of that have chosen this particular name. So be careful of the context when you hear Moloch and people talking about it. Anyways, so disrupting the system as it currently exists, you're talking about and that exactly, Professor Q. So you can do incremental change over time, right? And it takes a long ass time to get there. You can do revolutionary change, right? And do the thing. This is notoriously unpredictable and unfortunately results in the loss of our most vulnerable, right? Off jump. If you think that a revolution in this country would be a great thing and you're just waiting for that, just look around at all the people who rely on the system, even as flawed as it is, in order to survive. And those people, you just have to discount them if that's your mode. As like, fuck people who are elderly, fuck the disabled, any of those folks, they're dead under your revolutionary thing because they require certain aspects of the system in order to continue to live. Anybody who relies on medication in order to live, sorry about your damn luck. I mean, this is what you're talking about. Just so that you understand. I'm not saying what you should or should not believe. I'm just, again, we're talking about scenarios. Artificial intelligence is the one large disruptor that I think actually has the capability of disrupting the model, the Moloch, the thing as it currently exists, and does it in such a way as to provide us with a more gentle landing, and on the other side, give us the things that we all want, that we all need, from each, to each, all that good stuff. It answers all the questions. Who is going to do the shitty jobs under your socialist system? The robots will. Because the robots don't give a shit. Right? Who's going to farm all the food? Robots will. And it is not a stretch. You can look, and the robots on Facebook fucking years ago, I saw a robot planting seedlings. Right? It's just a matter of getting all the things together. And this is what's happening right now. This is the process that we're in. And it will be uncomfortable. And people, while we're trying to do this thing, are going to argue about stupid shit on the social medias. And our elected leaders are going to try and figure out whether or not the guy who is completely guilty of doing illegal shit is worthy of being the president and everything else. But the advantage of the Moloch, the system, is that it will continue to roll on regardless of who is president. Right? If you look at technological progress over time, it follows a curve. It wasn't disrupted by the Great Depression. It wasn't disrupted by any of the world wars. It wasn't disrupted by the Great Recession. It rolls on over time. It will continue to do this regardless of any of that other stuff. It's coming. It's going to happen. We need to be part of it. I want you to be part of it. Let me scroll back up and make sure I didn't miss anything. Make sure everyone gets responded to. Not just capitalism and a hierarchy. Yeah, I am anti-coercive hierarchy. I like purpose-built hierarchies that are temporary and purpose-built. And I am like pro-democracy, but an inclusive form of democracy that doesn't exclude like marginalized groups within any framework. I understand it's complicated. It should be. We have to find a way to make the system obsolete, as Buckminster Fuller said. The medbed conspiracy is hilarious. Yeah, like the system will become obsolete. Capitalism is great to build wealth quickly for a nation, but it has a limit. It can only sustain itself for so long and only get so big. 100%. I am part of the Democrat Marxist cabal. Democrat, Marxist, Communist, whatever Grumlow said. I'm part of that. Not a god of the market and money, but a demon of child sacrifice with no attention to what it's for. Yeah, that's what right wingers like. Yeah, and this is why your boy doesn't do debates, right? Like, because I don't. What am I going to do with that? We already have robots at work. How else would you explain my coworkers' behavior? Yes, fair enough. I think we'll drastically change the way we think of how we live our lives without the need to work for a living. What will we do with ourselves? And that's definitely like we are going to need to look for opportunities to excel where humans excel, right? Like to create art and be a subjective experience in the world and in the universe, right? Like there's a whole I can't tell you what it's going to look like on the other side of it, because it requires me to not exist within the thing that I already exist in. Is like State and Revolution, right? State and Revolution, Lenin talks about how communism will be built by people who live outside of capitalism, like have never experienced capitalism. And that is the, even if you're not a whatever, the thing that's on the other side of the AGI is a world that I can't imagine because it's on the other side of this AGI. That's what the singularity basically means, is like we can't see the other side of it. Oh, la, 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 la. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I'm willing to have conversations with people, even people that I disagree with, but like there's a whole bunch of terms that have to be had beforehand, and I have good conversations with people, even people that I disagree with. And again, they're available in the VODs and highlights saved for you here on Twitch for as long as it lasts. It's almost summertime. I will be looking to export those and upload them to the YouTube, to hopefully preserve them for longer and make them easier to use and share. So that is my goal for this summer, is to get everything off the at least the conversations off the Twitch and onto the YouTubes. Yeah, exactly, Little Donnie Fun. The next level explorer going for it because it drives him. Like, you imagine being driven by your material needs are met. You aren't out for survival. You are actually doing what you as a person, like what moves you, right? Like what moves you in the world. Every one of these guys who did their critiques of capitalism and everything else, they couldn't visualize a world with automated intelligence and, robots doing all the work. So take what they have said with a grain of salt and look to the future. More time for physics, absolutely. Freedom is a lie when you can't afford it, 100%. People forget how massive the universe is and how much we don't know. We'll have plenty to do. We do. Like, just think about what you would like to do. And again, I'm not talking about like, think about what your children would like to do, right? I'm talking about y'all. I'm talking about me, right? Like, I will be 56 years old if Ray is correct when this thing is happening. There's still plenty of time left. And then there's a whole other tangent about the nature of how technology is going to impact our longevity and everything else. Like there's the future. I gotta wear shades. That's all I'm saying. The future's so bright. I gotta wear shades. I don't plan on dying, and it has worked out well so far. All right, folks. I think that's going to be it for today. I appreciate everyone who came through on the raids. I appreciate everyone. I appreciate you. You know what I mean? Like, you are valuable. You are important. If it weren't for you, I'd just be some dude sitting in a room with his cat talking at the wall. You make this happen. I will never come for your pocket. My sub goal will always be 25. It is helpful. Extra is always helpful, but I'm never going to come for your pocket. There's only going to be ads at the pre-roll because there's no other way to do ads. That's just how it is. I particularly like pointing to COVID lockdowns because of the way it suspended normal capitalism for so many. The world kept turning with so many jobs changed context. People explored hobbies to meet social needs online. In some ways, I can smell echoes of that in post-singularity life. It's a good way to look at it, right? Like it is a thing that is happening. Excuse me while I just do a quick review. I'm gonna raid Hildy. I don't think I've raided Hildy. I like Hildy. If you want to go do something else, just stick around for the raid. But Hildy is pretty cool. Hildy is very cool. I minimize. Many of you know Hildy, and totally based human being, and you make me look good as a big, strong streamer with big number of people come in. In the meantime, I will be back. Hit the follow, be in the Discord, follow me on Twitter, do all the things. In the meantime, eat some food, drink some water, take your meds if you forgot. Joggy loves you. So do I.